Dan. Yep. All right, Dan, we're just transitioning to Facebook now. So we're going live right now.
Okay.
So
Doctor and Sally and you on the grass, the sun peering through the clouds on the pass. Here creek greets the river, hellos all around. It's good to have you here in my town. It's a beautiful thing, a gal and her dog over the stove that sings, chock full of logs, a blanket as warm as the night is long. It's good to have you here in my song. When I turn on the news, things don't look right. It brings on those blues, fears tonight. A grown-up child curled under the bed, hopes in the morning he will not be dead. I am pleased to meet you and amble this lane with the rocks and the flowers, the ferns, the rain. This crazy, crazy world, so overstuffed with strife. It's good to have you here in my life.
hey, that's really wonderful. We've got Dan Scanlan, Cool Hand Uke, coming with us tonight from Grass Valley, California, and we are in for a wonderful evening tonight. We are just getting started here, so maybe we'll have Dan play one more song, then I'll play one, and then we'll get started with uh, um, our class and our presentation of ukulele history. And I'm going to turn it back over to Dan to play another one for us as people are just logging on right now.
Okay, I can do that. I stand upon this mound of years, and I can see right through your tears. Feel your sadness and your fears, and I want to walk you home. Lay you down upon my bed, rub out the tensions from your head, rewrite those words that were said. I want to walk you home to those liquid times that course through the places we have been. Liquid times, time and time and time and time again. Liquid times. Liquid times course through the places we have been. Liquid, 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 liquid times. Time and time, time and time again. Liquid, 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 liquid times. I stand beneath a clear dark night and see a comet in its flight. Its long tail of liquid light, and I want to fly you home. Shoot a star across your sky, jump the moon as we fly. Sing that song that makes you cry, I want to take you home. To those liquid, 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 liquid times that course through the places we have been. Liquid, 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 liquid times. Time and time and time and time again. Liquid, 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 liquid times. Liquid, 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 liquid times.
Hey, that's wonderful. Liquid Times. We're listening to Dan Scanlan just warm up for us this evening. And we want to welcome everybody to Mead Public Library's Facebook Live. And we are going to be talking about ukulele history tonight, mixing in some strum along songs as well as learning a lot about the history of the ukulele. And so we've got another minute or two before our target start time here as folks are still logging on. I think we're at about 21 or 22 folks here, more than that. My wife Jenna is helping out here. And tonight, as we go along, I want to encourage you to type your questions into the comment thread. And our great tech person here, Jenna Lynn, will make sure that we ask those questions to our guest, Dan Scanlan. And if Dan can't answer, I certainly will give it my best attempt as an amateur ukulele historian as well. And so we're going to learn a lot of cool stuff tonight here. I'm going to play you one short little tune, and then we're going to get going in full for our class. We just wanted to give folks some time to make sure that everybody who was going to be here tonight is, in fact, on. I'm going to sing you a tune from 1927, and this is a tune from the Memphis Jug Band, which had a ukulele player by the name of Annie Mae Clayton, who played banjo ukulele like you heard Dan doing earlier. And the ukulele's role in early blues and country music is one that still needs a lot more research done on it. Most of the ukulele's early role focuses on Tin Pan Alley and Hawaiian music. And so here's a little piece from 1927 called Stealin', Stealin', Pretty Mama Don't You Tell on Me. And then I'm going to introduce Dan in full, and we'll get going with our ukulele history class tonight. Here we go. Put your arms around me like a sucker around the sun. Won't you let me love you like my easy rider dawn? Believe I love you, what a fool I've been. Believe I'm sinking, what a hole I'm in. I'm stealing, stealing. Pretty mama, don't you tell on me. Stealing back to the same old used to be. I'm loving, she just my hide inside. She's a married woman, come to see me sometime. Believe I love you, what a fool I've been. Believe I'm sinking, what a hole I'm in. I'm stealing. gonna say it one more time now. Put your arms around me like a sucker around the sun. Won't you let me love you like my easy rider done? Believe I love you, what a fool I've been. Believe I'm sinking, what a hole I'm in. I'm stealing, stealing. Pretty mama, won't you tell on me? Stealing back to my same old used to be. Take it home, Little Rev, now. All right, a little music from 1927. Ukulele has come a long way in American and world history. And we have been spending a lot of time studying the ukulele in all different ways and all different styles, from finger picking to chord melody, from single string lead style to claw hammer, from basic strumming fun to right on down the line to, improvisational skills and all kinds of different stuff. We've peaked at the ukulele, and it has sure come a long way from its humble beginnings. Tonight, I'm proud to introduce to you Dan Scanlan from Grass Valley, California. Dan has been playing ukulele a long time. He's got an intimate connection to the instrument and is a real historian, I consider him to be. His website, coolhanduke.com, has got one of the finest descriptions of the ukulele's development and evolution. It's just really wonderful read, and I encourage you to look at it as well. And so at this time, I'm going to start with the first question to Dan and ask him to tell us a little bit about the ukulele's predecessors. What came before the ukulele as we know it today? The little soprano uke that was really so much a part of the ukulele craze in the vaudeville era. What happened in Madera and Portugal and places like that? Can you paint a little foundational history of what instruments came first, what were their names, and tell us a little bit about this history, if you would, Dan.
Yeah, it's hard to know where to start because there's a lot of prehistory to the ukulele. Starting with the history of the island of Madera. When Portugal in the 1400s started cruising around the world, to see what was out there over the oceans, one of the people working for Prince Henry the Navigator came across this island. Porto Santo was the name of it, and it was in the fog. And in the fog, he didn't see this bigger island, Madera. And he went back to go see Porto Santo again. Boom, there's Madera. Madera, and he called it wood because it's covered with trees. Madera means wood. And the people who lived in Braga, North Portugal, they were Celts. And they decided to populate that island. They went there. One of the first things they did was set fire to an area so they could grow crops and stuff, and basically set the whole island on fire. And it burned for years. And about 100 years, well, I guess back in the 1500s, the first sugarcane plantation happened in Madera. So that's a little bit of where Madera is. And you notice the word Braga. The people came from Braga. And one of the instruments they brought with them, they called it the machete de Braga. Rock and rollers today, they call their guitars axes. The Celts, they call their little instrument the machete. And this is a regina. This is what they brought with them. It's tuned to an open G chord. Now you notice it doesn't sound like a ukulele, but it sure looks like one. And that's the size. And for many years, it was kind of believed under the following instrument of the beginning. But the Portuguese, one of the places they went was, of course, Hawaii. After Captain Cook found it, they started going there. And the Portuguese sailors would bring along their instrument that was more, this instrument, this Bergina is all high notes. Everything's high notes. It's hard to sing along with that. It's good for adding to stuff, but if you want to sing, it's good to have a little bit more noise. You know, a little bit lower, a little bit higher. This instrument is called a rajol, and the Portuguese sailors carried it, and it was the first instrument to go to Hawaii. They brought it with it. In fact, the Hawaiians called it the taro patch fiddle because the Portuguese would, you know, they had experience raising sugar and they worked in the fields, but they carried this out with them for their lunch breaks. And you could play melodies, you could play harmonies, you could play rhythms, you could do all kinds of things. It had 5 strings, and notice that it doesn't look like a ukulele; it's much larger, and but it's tuned with 2 reentrant strings. Spot, my dog has fleas. Spot, my dog has fleas. That first string is, you know how the G string on a ukulele is in tune with the 3rd fret on the 2nd string, those 2 G's. That's a reentrant string. This one has the D string is in tune with the D on the C string, the 2nd fret of the C string. So they call this this Rajol, the tail patch fiddle, and it because of its tuning, it's tuned like you could play guitar chords. You just don't have the bass string up there. But and the Hawaiians played Hawaii, but in 1878. Can I go back a little bit further to kind of set this up? You know,
Yeah, please
I'm
do.
I live in Nevada City, which is there's 2 cities, Grass Valley, Nevada City, right side by side. They're the heart of the mother lode. 1849, gold was discovered just down the road here, and people from all over the world came here. But there was a guy, Dr. Wilhelm Heilbronn, German guy. He's a medical doctor. He didn't want to come to California for gold and stuff. He needed to find a place where he could breathe. He had basically tuberculosis, and he went to Australia and set up a business that didn't work out. And he heard about Hawaii. He went to Hawaii, and it worked out there. And things were happening in Hawaii. They were in the middle of a pandemic. They had just had a massive flu attack, and then they got hit with smallpox because ships from San Francisco could go faster than they used to, and the smallpox virus lasted longer. And half of the population of Oahu died from smallpox. And Queen Emma and King Kamehameha, they took up a collection, they raised some money, they built a hospital, and they hired Dr. Wilhelm Heilbronn to be the chief administrator and doctor. And he was there for 17 years. So anyway, he goes home, and when he goes home, he doesn't like the new Reich in Germany. So he goes back to Madera, where he knew that and he wrote a book about the flora and fauna of Hawaii. And he knew that Hawaii was looking for workers, and they had just had a drought in Madera. Their sugar fields were in dire straits. They needed work. So he hired a couple of ships. One of them was the Ravenscraig. And in 1879, it went to Hawaii, and it brought through, among the 300 or so passengers, there were 3 guys who were woodworkers. And they kind of thought they were going to be servicing the needs of their countrymen when they got there. But it didn't work out that way, and they had to do something. And when the Ravenscraig arrived in Hawaii after 4 months at sea, there was a guy named Jules Fernandez. He was playing another passenger's Virginia, and he came down the gangplank playing the Virginia. This is the kind of a song they would be playing at that time. And the Hawaiians were really tickled with it because it was there's high energy and it's cute. They eventually these three woodworkers, Nunes, Diaz, and Santos, they realized that the Hawaiians were tickled by that instrument, it didn't play the kind of you couldn't play the kind of music the Hawaiians were playing on it. You needed something that was more like a guitar because that's the Mexicans already brought the guitar there, and most of the Hawaiian musicians were playing guitars, including King David Kalakaua. So Nunes, it is said, and perhaps all three of them had the idea that they would take this tuning, "My dog has fleas," they would take it off of the Rajol and put it on the body of the Virginia, and they called it a mini Rajol, and they took it to King David Kalakaua. Let me run real fast. I'm going to be right back.
All right. While Dan gets up here, let me just review some of the things that he said. So one of the critical moments in ukulele history is this late 1878, 1879, when the Robinskeg arrived in Hawaii, bringing with it the Maderan workers and a few very, very great woodworkers who would go on to become later known as some of the early real heroes of ukulele building in Hawaii, and I'm sure Dan will highlight that who those people were. I don't want to tip it off just yet, but that's what's happening, and you're hearing him talk about the Virginia and the Raho and some of these early instruments that gave birth to what we now know as the ukulele. And I turn it back over to Dan.
Yeah, thank you. Well, what I ran to get is this is a Manuel Nunes ukulele. It was made by Manuel Nunes, probably for the 1900. I had the pleasure one time I had a gig in downtown Nevada City, and I wrote a newspaper article. And I was talking about the Virginia and the history. And Manuel Nunes was credited with inventing the ukulele. Chief Fox, you're talking about I read a newspaper article. That was my great grandfather. And anyway, he wanted me to meet him, so I went and met him, and he had a Manuel Nunes ukulele. I had a Leonardo Nunes ukulele. And he told me that his mother, who was a granddaughter of Manuel Nunes and sat on his lap, came to the Pan Pacific Exposition in 1915 to teach the ukulele, and that she was going to be 104 years old that month. That would be October. And I said, really? What day? October 29th. I said, that's my birthday. You think she would talk to me? Oh, yeah, she gave me her telephone number. She was an old folks home in Santa Rosa, California. So I called her up, said, can you, I'm a ukulele player. I'd like to come. I have the same birthday you do. I'd like to come visit you on your birthday. She said, and I have a recording of this conversation. She said, you're a ukulele player? I said, yes, I am. She said, well, come on over. We'll tear up the town. And so I did, and she told me, I went and visited her, and she told me that her grandfather took 4 strings off the big one and put it on the little one, and that became the ukulele. Well, I'd done some reading about the ukulele. I never came across that. And then in 1998, I was part of a program called the Father and Son Reunion. The Virginia meets the ukulele. Because remember, at that time, people believed that the ukulele came from the Virginia. And the idea was some American players would take the ukulele back to the island of Madera and teach the Maderans how to play it, and they would teach us how to play the Virginia. And then we would play at the World's Fair. And so when I got to Madera and I pulled out my ukulele and I strummed it, they went, oh, Rajol. And what do you mean? And they reached up on the wall and pulled down the Rajol. And I went, oh, that's what Lil Fox was talking about. And then after talking with everybody, I realized what happened was the Rajol and the Virginia, they went to Hawaii, they got married, and they had the ukulele.
That's a perfect point, Dan. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna jump in a little bit here and there just to keep things on track. That's really incredible history that you're sharing with us, and really exciting to hear that. We're about 20 minutes in, so I want to ask you, Dan, if you would lead us in one of the songs that you contributed to the handouts on our Google Drive, which is "Ain't Gonna Rain No More." And one thing I'd like to add is that when you finish this song, if you would kind of fast forward a little bit and tell us about the Bird of Paradise and the Panama Pacific Expo after this song. But what I want to say to everybody who's listening is when we arrive in the vaudeville era, the real heyday for the ukulele in terms of the craze, you had all these people that many of which time has forgotten. You had guys like Frank Crummett, a ukulele player, Johnny Marvin, another ukulele player, Ukulele Ike, Cliff Edwards, of course, the very talented and well-known Roy Smeck, lesser known players like King Benny Nawahi, Ukulele Bailey, Honey Duke, and a fella named Wendell Hall, the red-headed uke maker, who had a big hit song that sold a lot of copies on the 78 records and sheet music era. And he had this song called "It Ain't Gonna Rain No More, No More, It Ain't Gonna Rain No More." And we want to sprinkle a little bit of fun strumming along into this uke history night tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Dan to do "Ain't Gonna Rain No More," and then I'm going to lead you in St. Louis Blues, and then we'll turn it back over to Dan to talk a little bit more about this era and other things that come up for him along the way, because we're invariably in an hour will never do justice to all the history that Dan has to share and the history of the ukulele, but just going to kind of keep things moving along. So I turn it back over to you, Dan, for "Ain't Gonna Rain No More."
Yeah, yeah, and Wendell Hall. He was. This, by the way, is a Wendell Hall professional model banjo ukulele. It's one of the things he played. He also designed his own ukulele. It's made by the Ludwig Company, which made mandolins, or not mandolins, the tambourines. They made tambourines, and they were going under. And this instrument saved them. So, what key did I put that out in? Do you remember?
Yeah, you put it out. Everyone's copy shows a G chord and a D7 chord. It's a 2-chord song.
I'm out of tune. I got. We had a power failure here. By the way, I'm sitting in. Maybe you can see maybe a half a mile because of the power's out. I was all set up in another room, and then the power blipped. The generator went out. It ain't gonna rain no more, no more. It ain't gonna rain no more. How the heck can I wash my neck if it ain't gonna rain no more? Peanut sat on the railroad track as hard as all flutter. Round the bend came number 10. Toot toot peanut butter. It ain't gonna rain no more, no more. It ain't gonna rain no more. How the heck can I wash my neck if it ain't gonna rain no more? Oh, my uncle built a chimney, he built it up so high. He had to tear it down again, let the moon go by. It ain't gonna rain no more, no more, it ain't gonna rain no more. How the heck can I wash my neck if it ain't gonna rain no more? Oh, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Fill us all a little paw, ton of wood it could. It ain't gonna rain no more, no more. It ain't gonna rain no more. How the heck can I wash my neck if it ain't gonna rain no more? Oh, it is isn't going to rain anymore. It isn't going to rain anymore. The grammar's good, but what a bore. So let's sing it like before. Oh, it ain't gonna rain no more, no more. It ain't gonna rain no more. How in the heck can I wash my neck if it ain't gonna rain? Ain't gonna rain if it ain't gonna rain no more.
Hey, that's great, Dan. Ain't Gonna Rain No More. Big hit on this in the '78 record era for Wendell Hall. And That's some great history there. I'm going to do the St. Louis Blues for everybody now, and in our little strum along. And this is 1914 now, when this actually first came out. It was the first blues song to succeed as a pop song, and that's what makes it special. I like to use this in a lot of my classes, and a lot of my students are familiar with this tune. It was recorded by everyone from Count Basie to Louis Armstrong, from Bing Crosby to Bessie Smith. And we're in the key of F. We've got an F chord in there. We'll have a C seventh, a B flat minor six, and a little diminished chord in there. So there's all kind of fun stuff in there. And so we're going to strum our way through our early hit here, 1914, St. Louis Blues, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Dan to talk a little bit about some some important moments in the teens and just a little bit beyond the turn of the century, leading us into the vaudeville era. So here we go. I hate to see that evening sun go down. I hate to see that evening sun go down. You know why? Well, it makes me think I'm on my last go round. I feel tomorrow like I feel today. If I feel tomorrow like I feel today, you know what I'm gonna do? I tell you, I would pack my trunk and make my getaway. Oh, look out now. Well, the St. Louis woman, she got a diamond ring. Oh, yeah. And she leads her man around by her apron string. But for her perfume and a store-bought paint, well, the St. Louis woman is trying to be what she ain't. Oh, yeah. St. Louis blue, blue as I could be. I got the St. Louis blues, I'm blue as I could be. Here we go now. Well, the gal I love, she got a heart like a rock in the sea. St. Louis blues, blue as I could be. The gal I love, she got a heart like a rock in the sea. Oh, yeah. Well, turn it back over to Dan now. Dan, tell us a little bit about another real pivotal moment in ukulele history. Bird of Paradise, the Expo, and some of the things that come to mind from that era.
Yeah, I think the date for the Bird of Paradise is kind of escaping me at the moment. It was before the Pan Pacific Exposition in San Francisco in 1915. I think it was like 1911 or 1912. William Tully, who happens to live in Nevada City, California, at the junction of South, North Broad and East Broad and West Broad, right downtown. Uh, he wrote a play called The Bird of Paradise, and it played in New York City, uh, and it was it, it's credited basically with ending the Victorian era. I mean, well, uh, Lauren, not forget her last name, the starlet that starred in it. New York Times reported her mother saying, "I didn't raise my daughter to be a harlot because she showed ankle." She showed ankle in The Bird of Paradise, and it was a love story. A sailor falls in love with a Hawaiian gal. Romeo and Juliet. The two societies don't get along together, and the interesting thing about it, after it became a movie, few years later, a woman stepped forward and said she wrote the play, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court and defined the United States copyright law. Bird of Paradise did. But it's credited with basically ending the Victorian era. I mean, people all of a sudden the Roaring Twenties, Pan Pacific Exposition happened in San Francisco in 1915, and probably one of the most popular pavilions was the Hawaiian Pavilion. And, scantily clad performers playing ukuleles and slide guitars and dancing the hula is very, very popular. And it set off a 20-year love affair with the ukulele. For the next 20 years, the ukulele was the most popular instrument in the American home. And, a lot of the tunes written during the 20s and 30s were written, by Gershwin and Porter and, on pianos, but they were played in the home on ukuleles, because you could buy one for $1, $1.50. And it roared on quite a while until Prohibition ended and big bands could play the nightclubs again. Speakeasies disappeared where the ukulele could be smuggled in, and Edward Cliff Edwards, ukulele Ike. He got his name because the bartender could never remember his name and just started calling him Ukulele Ike. And that stuck. But that's where the players, people sat in rowboats with their ukuleles and made Google eyes at each other, and rode in the moonlight and got out in the middle of the lake, play some ukulele, and then go back to town, get in a raccoon cap, and go to the dance hall and dance all these crazy dances. But the ukulele was in the middle of all of that, and you could carry it around with you and take it everywhere you went. But and then Maysingy Breen, he tuned it up a little bit higher. Roy Smeck, I think, used that tuning too, A, D, F sharp, B. Tuned the whole thing up higher so the strings would have more tension and be louder. It could be heard if there was a piccolo or a saxophone playing. You could still hear a little bit more of the ukulele. The volume was a little better. She actually sued the American Federation of Musicians to accept the ukulele as a real musical instrument, because so many people played it. How could it be a real musical instrument if people were playing it? It's like, well, I think wax paper and a comb is a musical instrument.
Hey, Dan.
Anything that gets your yayas out. Yeah, am I going astray here?
Yeah. Well, Will Rogers, the great cowboy philosopher of the 1930s, he had a famous quote about the ukulele. He said the ukulele had this advantage, that even a trained professional couldn't tell whether you were really playing it or just goofing around. And for a lot of years, I think a lot of people saw the ukulele as a toy. And I bring that up based on what you were saying. When I first started playing ukulele in the early 90s, people would make a joke out of it. Of course, they go Tiny Tim, right? Tiptoe Through the Tulips, because that's all they knew about the ukulele. And most people only thought of it as just something you went like this on. didn't think it was a real instrument that you could make music on, but very few of them knew about this rich history of music from Hawaii and Madera and Portugal, and this great tradition, and then the virtuoso players like Roy Smeck, really taking the instrument to another level, as well as all the great players today who continue to push the boundaries of what's capable of this little four-string instrument. And looking at our timing here, we got about 20 minutes, and this is a good place for you and I, Dan, or for you. I'm wondering if you would lead everyone in another one of your song posts on the beach at Waikiki, which you have written out in C. Are you open to doing that with everybody?
Yeah. Let me bring it up. The way I play it normally is, I think I sent you two different versions of it.
Yes. Yeah, you sent
And
two different sheets, but they're both in C, I think. And if that one doesn't work, you could do Ain't She Sweet, which is also starts with a C6 chord.
yeah. Well, let's follow. Let's. I think it's a good opportunity to show kind of a more sophisticated version of the song. The song is pretty simple. This song, by the way, was the major hit that came out of the Pan Pacific Exposition, 1915. And let me see if I can pull it up here, because
Well, Dan's looking up the song here. If you went to the Google Drive, there's two sheets for On the Beach at Waikiki, and we're gonna see if we can get through this, and then I'm gonna do a little bit of Ukulele Lady as well after Dan gets done. This, my friends, is a good opportunity to type your questions into the thread. Our tech guru tonight, Jenna Lynn, is going to write them down, and she'll feed them to me here, and we'll save the last 10 minutes or so of trying to answer your ukulele history questions. Obviously, we could go into the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. There's just so much here that we won't get to tonight. But I turn it back over to Dan, but I just want to remind you, now is a good time to type your questions into the thread while Dan and I lead everyone in a song. And also, our only plug of the evening, we want to be able to send a little courtesy tip to Dan for taking the time tonight. So I'm going to split the tips this evening with Dan. Anything you put in the virtual tip jar, Dan and I will share tonight. And so I thanking him for his time joining us and sharing his expertise. I turn it back over to you, Dan.
okay, well, let's do the chart. I got that chart. Each one of the chord diagrams is one beat, and I think if you take time to just play it slowly over a period of time, you'll be able to dress it up. It's pretty nifty song because it has some couple of unusual chords. But I'm going to real quickly just kind of go through it just to show how it ultimately can wind up, and then we'll do it slow. Does that sound like a plan?
Good.
And so that's basically how it. Okay, so I'm going to count it for you, for everybody. Just follow along, and do it. If you do it enough times, you'll own it. You'll wind up owning it, right? And we'll start with the C chord. There's 4 beats of C, and then there's this unusual chord that gets used. It's got a The 5 is a flat version of it and a sharp version of it. So it's a sharp flat 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Over again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again. Onika uo wiki wiki sweet maiden. I messed up. I'm sorry. So I just want. I'm going to just play it a couple of times too, and you guys play along. How's that?
That sounds good.
Now, this is one we took to the World's Fair in Lisbon in 1998.
Yeah. Oh, nice. And yeah.
The thing of it is, if break it out into little squares like that and just play it over and over and over again, and then start messing with it. Give yourself permission to horse around with it, and run some of the lines shorter and some of fast. More fun. Just a whole lot more fun. Give yourself permission to horse around. You were talking about how people thought it was a toy. Yeah, that's why they call playing music. It is a toy. It's all toy when you get
Yeah.
down to it.
All right. Well, I think we're gonna look at Ukulele Lady, and I'm gonna screen share here for a second. So everyone, stay with me. Okay. And we're gonna look at Ukulele Lady here now. This is a version I'd like you to follow. I gave you another page. That's kind of a variation on this, but I'd like everyone to look at the screen, and let's play it off the screen rather than what was on the Google Drive. Dan, I'm going to have you, if you know how to mute yourself, I'm going to ask you to mute yourself. Otherwise, just hang tight for a second on your end. And so, Ukulele Lady was published in 1925. Gus Kahn was one of Al Jolson's favorite songwriters. And we're going to look at this. We'll just do a little bit of it here. We've got a F chord and a C seventh. Then you have this D flat seventh, which is just barring on the first fret here. Okay. So here, let's do a little bit of this. We'll do the first verse and the chorus. Okay. And this is a great Hapa Holly song, one of hundreds that were spawned by the Hawaiian craze after the Panama Pacific Expo came and introduced Hawaiian culture to the mainland, where everybody just started going crazy about this. And of course, songs imagining life in Hawaii like this. And so here we go. I saw the splendor of the moonlight on Honolulu Bay. There's something tender in the moonlight on Honolulu Bay. And all the beaches are full of peaches who bring their ukes along. And in the glimmer of the moonlight, they love to sing this song. Here we go. If you like ukulele lady, ukulele lady like a you. If you like to linger where it's shady, ukulele lady lingers too. If you kiss a ukulele lady while you promise ever to be true, and she sees another ukulele lady fool around with you. Yeah, there's obviously a lot more to that song, and that you can explore, but we wanted to just add some classic ukulele music to the evening here. Other notable versions of that were by Frank Crummett, Paul Whiteman Orchestra, Jim Kweskin, Bing Crosby, and Bette Midler recorded that song as well. And now we're gonna go back to we have some questions, Dan, as we move into our last 10 minutes here. Greg from Anaheim wants to know, when did the concert and tenor come along? Did it start with the soprano? Would you like to talk about that if you know? Otherwise, I can address it.
Well, it started with the soprano because that was the size of the beguina, and I I think the concert size happened pretty quickly, but I can't give you a date on that. I do know that the next really major change was going into doubling the strings and taking on the name of the Taro Patch. Taro Patch. It was a nickname that the Hawaiians had given the original uh, Rajo, and Nunes used it when he doubled the strings on the ukulele, made the ukulele a tiny bit. I had one of his Taro Patches also, and then Martin started making them too. By the 20s, they were making them pretty much. I don't know when they started calling them tenors and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Another question we have here from Lindsay was the uke popular in the U.S. during the time we've discussed, or just more on the West Coast?
Well,
You,
there's what time, what area are you talking about? It's all over the country.
yeah.
It jumped the Atlantic. It went to England. George Formby was playing the ukulele over there. It went to Europe. It was popular everywhere, all over the place. There were players in Hawaii who traveled the world playing the ukulele. They made pretty good money doing that. And if you in my history on the website, you can read about that. Some of the players whose names I'm not a celebrity hound. There's certain names I get to keep in my age bracket, but yeah, there's a lot of great players all along the way. There always have been.
Uh,
Uh,
thank you. But yeah. We got some other questions coming in, Dan. But before I read them, Dan, if you go to Dan's website, coolhanduke.com, he's got a really wonderful ukulele history. I have an actual booklet copy of it here, and he can tell you more about that. And I recommend that if you're really interested in the history. Also, I recommend the Ukulele A History. This is by the late John King, and this is a stellar, really in-depth history of the ukulele in Hawaii and its influence around the world. On an educational level, Dan Scanlan has a book out called How to Play Ukulele, which I reviewed it on my Fountain of Uke blog, and I gave it a very favorable review. And I encourage you to look into this book as well. Um, uh, he can tell you more about it, but published by Adams Media. And then the last thing I'll show you for resources is Jumping Jim's ukulele history as well. So there's a lot of cool resources out there for the history of the ukulele and ukulele ephemera. And so we got one more question here for you, Dan, and then it'll be time for us to play a song or two to take things out. And someone asked if the Ukulele Hall of Fame on the East Coast still exists. Do you happen to know anything about that?
They no longer hold festivals, and they still have custody of a huge collection. And they do have a program where they provide ukuleles to children. And I think they're in a holding pattern at the moment, but they do exist. They still maintain a site, a website,
Yeah.
but they stopped doing the festivals. And they've been, Tom Walsh has he helped. He and John Young have done stuff together before John passed. Uh, anyway, yeah, that's a great festival. That was a great festival. I got to do it a couple of times when it was. So I met Fred Fallon. That's where Tiny Tim had fell off the stage when he came out before he could sing a thing. He collapsed on stage with his first heart attack. Bad time. We talking about earlier. We were talking about the frivolity that was always associated with ukulele. How people didn't think it was a real instrument. And Tiny Tim was a wonderful player. He was a really good player, and he knew a lot about the old songs of the tens and twenties. And he could talk about them and knew them, but that's not what he put out there for entertainment purposes. And uh, I was really blown away when I came across an album he put out much years and heard how well he played. But that's not what he did. And the shtick. And that was disheartening to me. I mean, that's everybody gets to do their own thing, but yeah, I found that a little sad. That, you know,
Yeah.
he had a different talent that he chose not to share with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a real historian. There's a documentary out there, I forget the title of it, about him, and he just knew so many great old songs, and he was a walking encyclopedia of American
Yeah,
music and always pushing the boundary. I mean, he recorded Led Zeppelin songs, he recorded polkas, he recorded Irish songs, he recorded a little bit of everything. And
but nobody
but
knew it.
yeah, because he chose to go down the the present himself in a kind of novelty manner, and yeah, there's just so many sides to ukulele history. Dan Scanlan's a pretty modest guy, but he also appears in the great documentary called The Mighty Uke. You'll find Dan Scanlan, who you're hearing from tonight, on this great DVD. If you live in Sheboygan, the library has a copy of it you can check out, and you can get it on Amazon as well. If you have not seen it, it's a dynamite documentary. Mighty Uke.
Yeah, yeah, you're in it too. Yeah, yeah, we both got in that one. We were among the first videos, I believe.
Yeah. Hey,
I got one more thing to show. I got here.
oh,
I just
cool.
put this together. The world as I uke it. It's 131, 60 years. I mean, it covers, you know, the Nixon era, the Carter era, the Reagan era, all the Bushes. It covers Columbus, the Kennedy assassination. It covers all my broken hearts, all my love affairs, all my attitudes towards society. 131 songs, all ukulele chords. So just finished it
Yeah.
up. That's my COVID pastime.
Yeah. That that's great, man. Dan,
And it's
you,
available at my website only.
hey Dan, I want to ask you one little, a last kind of. We're coming to the end of our time, but one thing I've always loved about is, first of all, as far as I'm concerned, you are a great treasure to the ukulele community. A lot of you don't know this, but Dan leads a ukulele group called the Strum Bums, and he's been doing that a long time. And is a real community song leader. I just think that Dan is a real treasure, and I'm glad that all of you tuned in tonight to hear him share some knowledge and play a little bit for you. I'd like to ask you to do two things before we say goodnight. One is I'd like you to talk a little bit about the Vidodio
This
door, the slide that you like to do a lot, and how and why you do that. And then I'd also like you to finish with a song of your choosing, maybe something from your book. I just want to remind you this is a family audience because we're doing this for a library. So any song you choose has got to be family friendly.
Well, the thing with basically moving a chord up the neck, um, you start off with it. I like to do it with I don't know what they actually call it, but I call it a trill. And it was one of the first things I tried to learn on the ukulele, and I was able to get a hold of it pretty early. And what I do, I I'm in my head. The only string I'm playing is the A string. All of them are getting hit, but that's but I'm not conscious of it. I'm only playing the A string in my head. I'm working on it. I'm trying to get that sound. I'm coming up underneath the string, kind of at a 45-degree angle. You know, just practice sliding around on that. You can go up in there. You can go down in there. So, like 5'2", we could play it like this. 5'2", E7, or we could play this E7 up here. If we play this one, which is, bar the seventh fret, drop your middle finger down on top of the third string. You got it, like that's an A, this is an E. So if I want to go 5'2", eyes are blue, I go 5'2", eyes are blue. But in my head, I'm only playing that bottom string, the A string. Because if I don't, I get all messed up. So I don't pay any attention to the other strings. If they get hit, I can't help it. But that was the trick that worked for me. You might have a different trick. We all got tricks that we get us through what we got to do. But I always
Yeah.
like the sound of the glissando. It always sounded so sweet to me. You know, you could also do that. This is an E7 also on bar the fourth fret, make like a D chord, but up 2 frets. Just start off something simple like just playing a D chord. Get your fingers to know all these different happy spots on your ukulele and give yourself permission to horse around. And, I'm going to introduce a trick here. If you're playing a diminished chord, or it's so messed up already, right? I mean, it's got that interval in it. That interval has got to be fixed. Hear that interval? Do anything you want. Seventh chords have it too. You can do anything you want as long as you get home in time. Did you hear it get fixed? Did you hear it? It got fixed. Just like a teenage girl. She can go to the movies. She can go make out in the parking lot. She can go hide out behind the bar or do whatever. Everything's going to be fine as long as she gets home in time. So. So
That's awesome, Dan.
give yourself permission to horse around and have a whole lot of fun, but
Yeah,
it with a nice 5-1.
that's
That's
awesome. Um, we want to ask you to just sing us one last song of your choosing. Anything you want to do, just as a performance piece for us, whatever your favorite song is. I always loved your Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, or some of that stuff. So maybe I'm making a request, maybe I'm not, but you play whatever you want. Just take us
that
out with
one
one
would be
last
pretty
song.
rusty. I haven't played that in a long time.
I should know better than to request songs.
Well, I've been hiding out so long for this thought to congeal. May not be at risk at all to tell you how I feel. This love we both be grieve it as we do the things we do. But as long as we believe it, why not pretend it's true? As long as we believe it, why not pretend it's true? I believe you love me, it's true. I love you. As long as we believe it, why not pretend it's true? I believe you love me, it's true. I love you. When we have those little spats that turn us oh so blue, why can't we just tip our hat? Say, how do you do? Light the wood in the stove, smoke up the flue. As long as we believe, why not pretend it's true? Long as we believe it, why not pretend it's true? I believe you love me, it's true. I love you. Long as we believe it, why not pretend it's true? I believe you love me, it's true. I love you.
Hey, thank you, everybody. We want to say thanks to Dan Scanlan, Cool Hand Uke, www.coolhanduke.com. He's got a lot to offer: books, classes, history, you name it. What a great treasure. I'm so glad that you were able to spend some time with us tonight. And I hope to have Dan back again. We can do something together, maybe in the late fall or winter again. But please visit his website. Remember, the if you feel like leaving a tip, it's very much appreciated, and I will split that with Dan tonight. And thank you all for tuning in. Mead Public Library, downtown Sheboygan. We are here on the second, third, and fourth Mondays of each month, and we've got a full schedule for the fall. Things may change a little bit in terms of the days that we offer the classes, but we'll be continuing online programming into the fall. Thanks to Mead Public Library, great community resource here in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And I think that's all we've got for now. Please check lilrev.com for upcoming classes. I've got a Bending the Blues harmonica this Saturday with James Conway. And my webinar program will start up in the fall for in-depth 90-minute workshops. And thank you all for joining us. Stay healthy, keep strumming, and God bless everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.